On today's inconceivable episode, we pitch you The Princess Bride. We pay our tribute to the 1988 Rob Reiner classic, see how it has or hasn't aged, and how its influences are still seen today. Also, Andrew gets a mic, and then decides to conspire to get the internet to hate me. All this and way many other joyous things on The Pitch Pod. Welcome to the Pitch Pod. We are the pod triad, and we are here to pitch you on all things nerdy, geeky, dorky, dweeby, and lame. How do you like my my little switch up there? I'm thinking about making that a little thing. Yeah,
it's a choice.
Need some work, but
as this is his whole fucking podcast. But yeah, it's charming, I guess. Anyway, guys, I wanted to let you know some big news in my life. In a very uneventful month, I have listened to your criticisms, and I had decided to watch Detective Pikachu.
Perfect.
It is okay. It is the epitome of, yeah, it was fine.
Perfectly
mediocrity, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it was cute, right? And I actually thought like the way the textures on all the Pokemon was very surprising. I just thought that was the most cookie cutter movie, story structure wise, I've ever seen in my life. Obviously, I'm not looking for depth there.
I would, just to
go ahead,
strictly argue semantics. So Victor's weighed in as mediocre. I have weighed in as adequate. There is, in fact, a wide definition of difference between the two. Adequate, as defined by the Google Dictionary, satisfactory or acceptable. Mediocre, moderate quality, not very good. Grant. Whereas Detective Pikachu fall.
It's hard because I wanna label it in the realm of video game movies, which are just so iconically trash, right? But then again, I want to compare it to just being a movie because it's a movie, and not have it settle for any particular medium.
Did you try comparing it to the animated Pokemon movies?
That's 5 stars.
That's just such a whole... I mean, I don't even know. I'm going to lean more towards, I'm glad that it happened. So I guess, Andrew, you win there. And the whole supremacy of things, it was fun. It was cute. Would I watch it again unless I absolutely had to? No. Do I think that Justice Smith provided the most vanilla bean performance of all time? Yeah. But, Ludicolo was kind of cool.
Mr. Mime stole the show.
We agree on that. Minor spoiler alert for our listeners. But, dude, the part where Mewtwo can manipulate the human soul was really weird.
I didn't get that. I mean, I feel like, yeah, they're I didn't know Mewtwo was like a pseudo god.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, this is a weird,
yeah.
I mean, he's psychic, so I assume he was just putting his consciousness inside of things.
What was that?
He's psychic, so I took it as him just moving, consciousnesses around.
Then he dissolved the particles of the humans and merged them inside the Pokemon. It was I don't know. It was just some surreal shit.
Yeah, it had some third act problems.
And then also, I mean, wheelchair grandpa, that came a marathon away. I saw that, the moment I saw the guy, I was like, okay.
He's the bad guy.
He's bad.
Yeah.
He's bad. Once again, criticism for criticism's sake. It's Pokemon. It's not Christopher Nolan, but yeah. Anywho.
It was a good proof of concept.
Yeah, I think that the thing about it, like a kids movie or what is marketed as a kids movie, I think the mark of a really good one is that it still appeals to adults so that it's tolerable. You know what I mean? Because not necessarily are adults going to go out and be like, hey, I want to watch. Well, maybe now it's different, right? Because we have nostalgia attached to Disney movies, for example. But
right.
I don't imagine back in the 90s someone was like, oh yeah, you want to go see Mulan, dude? And it's like, nah, man, The Matrix is out. What are you talking about? So I think that's the mark of a good kids movie. Myself, I thought Detective Pikachu was adequate. I was like, man, if my kid liked this, I would leave the room every time they played it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no doubt. And that's what I'm struggling with is you remove the Pokemon label, what does this movie become? And frankly, I'm not too sure, but my bias towards Pokemon is still so sway that I don't really care. Yeah, I proved the haters wrong. I watched Detective Pikachu, and the conclusion is that there is no conclusion, and y'all are both right? Question mark?
Ooh, what a cop-out. I kind of don't like it.
I was declared right. That's where it is.
Whatever. There's a cliffhanger there. Potential for a sequel in the discussion. What if this just becomes a Detective Pikachu podcast?
Nope.
No, not feeling it, Grant.
I don't know. I'm just putting out feelers out there. Whatever. Andrew, you want to talk about your thingy?
Sure. I, like the rest of the internet that has PS Plus for the month of August, got in on some Fall Guys, which was...
I've seen that everywhere.
Yeah, it's basically like Wipeout meets Fortnite in terms of visuals and presentation and everything. So, yeah, it was, I played a few matches. It was aggressively competent. I can see why it's very addicting. It's also on Steam, in addition to being the free PS Plus game. So they're going for the Rocket League bigness.
The Rocket League.
They're not even, I think they're aware they're not even going to approach Fortnite, so they're just aiming at taking Rocket League's place as second place. Because they're modeling,
Fair.
Rocket League showed up on PS Plus and immediately...
Is that what happened? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
that's why that was the initiation for Rocket League into just like taking off like a rocket.
I thought it was interesting. Like, I've taken a look at it. I haven't played it because, again, my PS4 is still broke, and I'm like, you know what? I'm probably not going to fix it. But I did think it was definitely entertaining to watch. So if it's if it's fun to play, it's fun to watch. I mean, and the concept is so novel. That's what I like most about it. They just took
The
like
controls are a
American
little wonky.
Gladiator, and they were like, let's make it a battle royale, basically. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good idea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The controls are a little wonky. That's my main complaint with it, but
It looks like one of those, like, I don't know, maybe it just, that is like the novelty that you're mentioning, Victor, but it looks just like one of those phone games, where you, like, I really just don't see, is it because of its simplicity that it's fun? I mean, like, I don't have a PlayStation, so.
I think that
I would...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would posit A, that you're putting down phone games when you don't need to, and B,
Okay.
There is no B. Leave phone games alone.
Hey, man, I mean, Tiny Birds, that was cool. And then...
Angry Birds or Flappy Bird? I literally think you picked the one
okay,
thing
you
that
know
wasn't
what?
a game.
Bird games of all the bird
genre.
all the bird games were, yeah, exactly.
Birds of
Bird
all
games were
feathers.
cool. That was about it. Yeah, I don't really remember.
I think that the game itself, like, it's borderline a gimmick. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
I mean, it looks like
absolutely
100% a
everything.
gimmick.
Right, but I mean, like,
Everything's
in terms of like Fortnite, like, I personally didn't think that it wasn't going to take off after they adopted the battle royale thing. I was like, well, PUBG did that, and they did like the best execution at the time, and then Fortnite got into that, and then of course you have the Call of Duty doing their thing with Warzone. Whereas this is basically like pretty novel on all fronts. It's not even remotely similar like Rocket League. So I think that this is really one of those things where time will tell if it has any staying power. It's blowing up right now. If you check in like 2 months and it's still doing well, then I think it will just continue to do well. But if not, then it's over. I personally don't see the staying power of it, but I do think it is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I really like, maybe it's just because I haven't experienced it myself. Well, definitely because I haven't experienced it myself, but I don't see how this isn't like any other just minor trend where a bunch of people play a game until they burn out of it real quick because there's not really a variety of content and then dip out to the new one.
I feel like you're saying that and writing off mobile games, not realizing that it makes far more money than actual video games, than console games. Like you're treating,
from like the...
You're assuming that there's no creativity to it. There are a bunch of casino games, but you also get like Monument Valley 3s for every Angry Birds, Crossy Road, just... If you're not seeking them out. Of course, you're not going to find anything good. That's like, well, Nintendo, it's got Mario, but, once you get done jumping, what else is there?
Okay.
If you didn't look at anything else.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just, I guess you're proving my my lack of insight and bias correct there. I guess, well, I don't even know where I'm going with this.
One of my concerns, well, not concerns, right, but one of my thoughts is like, how can you tell when you get good at that game? At like Fall Guys, how do you know if it's because the like Fortnite and Rocket League both have a competitive scene? How would you do that with Fall Guys necessarily? Because it's basically Mario Party. It's basically Mario.
There are rewards for winning that are exclusive, and they're like, if you win, you get a crown.
Yeah.
There are certain inventory items that are locked only in the Crown Store. So if you're going around showing I've never won, don't know what's in the Crown Store. But if you're going around with a pirate hat, let's say, that's in the Crown Store, people know you've won.
Baller.
Right. If you're going around with multiple items, then they know you've won a lot.
Right. So would you say it's a skillful game? Like the people
if the
that
controllers were more accurate, I would say it was a skillful game. But I mean, in the Discords I'm in, people have talked about winning consistently, and I think any game you can win consistently is a skill game.
All right,
that's cool. Perfectly fair point.
Fair enough. Yeah. Whatever. I'll give it a shot because I'm not gonna. I'm done hating. I'm done hating on things before I do it. Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a bad policy, Grant. just maybe for this particular thing.
I don't know. I feel like that's been the theme of the first 3 episodes now, is like I'll be like, hey, this thing doesn't look very good, and then Victor or either of y'all will be like, hey, no, this thing is very good, shut up.
And then I'm like, well, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Grant hates things is our first trope, and Victor is unimpressed by things is our second. Yes. And I am moving around like a puckish figure causing arguments as the third.
That's very accurate. I'm very
I can't wait to go into the thematical analysis of our podcast
of our inner
channel.
Lore, like 100 episodes. The pitch pod is the pitch pod again.
Yeah, maybe we figure out what the narrative of this new Avatar movie is going to be, or is it going to be?
Transitions. There you go. Man, thank you for that, Andrew.
I thought that was a very good transition, by the way.
That was, I didn't see that coming whatsoever. Dang. Yeah, headlines.
Grant just lamp shading.
It turns out, like any good thing, you ruin its effect when you call attention to it.
Okay, fair. Whatever. Headlines. So, per Andrew's recommendation to move on, skedaddle over, I wanted to bring up the new Netflix Avatar movie and how I think it's going to shit. Yeah, I think, well, obviously by the time that this releases, this will probably be super old news, but whatever. So, in accordance to every single pop culture website ever, the creators of the original Avatar: The Last Airbender series, Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, have left the Netflix project, citing creative differences, which is just incessantly vague. But there were a bunch of different rumors as to what those differences are. Some cited without a source that it was because Netflix wants to make a PG-13 super sexy Avatar with big boobs and blood and stuff like that, while others are just saying that Netflix wants to whitewash the entire project. I'm not sure it's going to be, I doubt it's either of those things, even though Netflix is kind of under hot water with that one title, with the twerking 11-year-old girls.
I mean, I don't know. I think that this is a criticism I hear often about like Legend of Korra, was that the directors weren't like as reined in by Nickelodeon, primarily because it was like only on their online platform. So like there's this common, I guess you could say, there's this idiom that restrictions can sometimes lend to art, right? So like if you look at all the movies of the 50s and yada yada, their censorship, their way of getting around it, a lot of people make the argument that that enhances their work. And I mean, I don't know exactly how I feel about maybe that perspective. I think it lacks nuance. It's definitely a truism. It sounds like something that would be true, right? But maybe not necessarily 100% of the time. Maybe like one of those things people just say just to say it. But anyway, the original creators, from what I understand, they weren't as reined in for Korra. And I've seen like a few episodes, and I thought they were okay. But the general reaction is that Korra isn't as good as Avatar.
Yeah.
So
Korra, yeah, I mean, I've heard what Victor's saying, and like I've watched both. Korra is its highs are fantastic. Like when the vision is there on point, such as, and I hate to have an opinion that is exactly like so many others, but when season 3, for example, gets going, it is in my eyes better than anything Avatar did. But
right, when it's good,
there
it's
was so much not good in my eyes, being both the second and fourth seasons, which were just frankly bad, that it kind of left a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. But I don't know, the show had, like I said, very high highs, very low lows. So I can see where you're coming from with like that creative restriction assisting like the vision, I guess.
I mean, all I'm trying to say is like, just because the original creators aren't involved doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be trash. I don't think that that's like a good assumption. And again, we don't really know why. They just said creative differences, but like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, did someone say Appa's arrows should be red and that's why they fucking left? Like, we don't know. So we'll have to wait until the product comes out to really judge it. You know what I mean?
I don't know, but if you wanted to talk about other adaptations, I mean, Cyberpunk's came from
the tabletop
world of tabletop board games, and it's had significant troubles getting out. Victor, are there going to be more?
Yeah, I've kept my ear to the ground ever since that editorial, that Forbes editorial came out talking about like the Cyberpunk 2077 delay. I mean, again, nobody's really saying anything. As far as I know, the release date is still November. And personally, I know that CD Projekt Red really struggled with crunch, and they've stated on their Twitter that they're trying to minimize that. So if the cost of that is that they have to add a couple of months to get out the glitches, I don't have a problem with it personally. I really think that the older I get, the less impatient I am. I'm willing to wait for something I think that is going to be good. So I'm definitely on board for Cyberpunk. I think it looks fantastic. Everyone's like, it's too good to be true, and I'm like, it kind of is. But I'm willing to trust CD Projekt Red. Not many other game studios, but this one, let's see what they do. If they have to delay it, they have to delay it.
They definitely have a proven track record. I mean, Witcher 3 is supposed to be the best game of the last generation. I think there have been more reports. Of course, the actual company is not going to put up a post that says, we're crunching. But I think other reports have come out that have said, they're absolutely crunching. They're notorious for it, and they're still doing it.
Old habits die hard,
Yeah, if you want to look at a place that seems to be doing the right things at the wrong times, you'd have to look at Microsoft right now and that Halo Infinite delay.
Yeah.
So that's the thing of, ideally to avoid crunch, they're pushing it back to 2021, not even spring 2021, just 2021 question mark.
It wouldn't surprise me if they aimed for the holiday season, which is, standard procedure.
That's
as far as big titles are concerned.
Yeah, and also the trailer looked bad.
Yeah, no, yeah,
so,
yeah. I really,
that's the difference. That's delineating.
Yeah, people have been hands-on with Cyberpunk, and they're saying it's very good. So, and people have been hands-on with Cyberpunk and saying it's doing the stuff that it's supposed to be doing. So I think Cyberpunk, it would not surprise me, but even the Forbes editorial says, I mean, we think it's coming out. We have no reason to not think it's coming out. So, but Microsoft, that Xbox ain't launching with a lot. The one thing it might might be good for is playing a better version of Cyberpunk. So if Cyberpunk also gets delayed, they're really falling back on that library, Game Pass and library of 1,000 Xbox games.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Obviously, we've seen it like multiple times before, but especially like the PS3. I remember there was like a complete lack of interesting launch titles. Like a lot of the ones that were released were terribly received, and that did end up affecting.
launch titles are almost always terrible, short of your Mario 64
or your Halo Combat Evolved, or your Twilight Princess.
I'll take your word.
Knack.
But PS2 launch titles, very slim. And I think the first PS2 game that I remember being a big deal was Metal Gear Solid 2. But recently, launch titles have been bad. PS4, Xbox, bad.
Yeah, for real. When did Metal Gear 2 come out? Because that's like before I had contact with video games. That's before me.
Metal Gear Solid 2 came out in 2001.
Yeah.
2001.
I didn't even own a console at the time. My first console was GameCube with Wind Waker.
Feeling my age, thank you.
Yeah, Andrew, what were you, like 27?
Yeah, no, I was, I was about to retire then, I think. I may be wrong. The way I remember it, whichever came out first between Grand Theft Auto 3 or Metal Gear Solid was the first big PlayStation game I remember from that everybody had to own and everybody talked about. It was the first PlayStation 2 game I remember talking about with somebody at school. Yeah. But anyway, launch releases are weird. Microsoft seems to be doing the right thing, like you said. No need to crunch anybody. And also, before they announced that it was delayed, they announced that they were bringing in a second studio to help, 543?
343?
That's
343 Guilty Spark.
I don't Xbox. Yeah, I don't Xbox. But they brought in a second studio to help 343. So that implies that they are trying to handle the problem correctly, hopefully, or they just brought in more people to crunch. So
have you been keeping your ear to the ground as far as Cyberpunk, Grant, or no?
Not my lingo. Not at all. I've definitely seen it like at E3s and stuff like that.
Yeah, the original launch, not launch, but the original trailer for it came out like long time ago.
Years ago.
I want to say like maybe 5, maybe 6, dude. It's been a long time.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah, cause like this is a name I feel like I've heard since I was in college, but just had absolutely no idea. Like I thought it already come out by this point. Honestly, that goes to show how much I know. So I guess you could say ear is as high off the ground as humanly possible, if that's how the metaphor would work.
Ear is at eye level where it should be.
Yeah, sure. We'll go there. Andrew, go for it.
Sure. I was just going to take a minute. Grant actually turned my head to this story. It was the first time I had heard about it, but
really?
They are rescinding the Paramount Decree. So Grant, what put that on your radar? Like, what did you think when you shared it?
Well, I mean, I think the movie theater itself is an experience that I have treasured so much. And we haven't been able to go to like an AMC or a Cinemark or anything along those lines in so long. And so I saw this just by happenstance, honestly, because it really wasn't a big headline. At least I only noticed it just through scrolling the interwebs. Like it was definitely not a front page deal, but I think the Paramount Decree is like this could definitely change the landscape of how we view films and really what films we view. Andrew, you want to go and discuss what the Paramount Decree specifically is and the case behind it, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It got instituted in the late 40s. Basically, up until that point in the Golden Age system, the studios ran everything. It was monopoly up to they handled the casting, the booking, the distribution, the studios. So the importance of the block booking, they would force the studio to take, you want Snow White? You must also take our 4 other made on a budget, not very good movies, which is going to keep them from having the Philadelphia Story. Oh, you want Pulp Fiction? You must now take 5 other movies, and now you can't show The Shawshank Redemption or Forrest Gump.
Right.
And you have to play them X amount of time. So that was what block booking was, and vertical integration was the way they owned everything. And then they owned the theaters as well. So, like, you'd have the Paramount Theater. I wonder what movies they showed. And so the Paramount Decree ended that. It ended the block booking, the vertical integration. And so what this means, as somebody like you, Grant, who loves theaters, they are the thing I'm very much worried about coming through this pandemic. Especially, there's a beautiful independent theater downtown I'm very much worried about. They're showing old movies right now, and I'm like, I love The Dark Knight, but I don't want COVID, so I'm not gonna go. And so, like, I can't figure out the best way. Obviously, I can get takeout and support restaurants. I'm not sure what to do for movie theaters. I could buy gift cards, but there's a very real chance that these theaters aren't gonna last. So my pragmatism and cynicism, maybe I'm supposed to be buying the gift card for The Dark Knight and then going home to watch it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's my fear on, like, with this coming back, right? Or I guess it being rescinded. We have studios like A24, for example. Perhaps one of the most notorious and successful indie studios out there. And with failing theaters, what my worst case scenario is, you have a bunch of streaming services or corporations buying up all these studios, forcing them to play only their films, and those without a large-scale label behind them, such as A24 films for the film goer, maybe not as high concept, but beautiful in its own right. So many other movies are just going to be unseen, leading to once you mentioned in the beginning, the monopolization of film.
Right. So you're absolutely like how this plays out for indies is incredibly complicated, and I don't know. It could go like A24 gets blocked out. It could also be like the way studios do movies now is that everything is a $250 million thing for the major studios, and it's a problem to crank out. The art of the 50 million, 25 million movie has left the studio system pretty much. Right. So I wonder if they start bundling in the A24, like, do they bundle in independent films with the block booking? But if the thing that you mentioned that I think about is Netflix, Amazon, they've already been working around the Paramount Decree. They already own everything about their distribution. They are like, this takes restraints off the studios that still exist. Only like 3 of the studios that were affected by the named in the Paramount Decree actually still exist. But this takes the gloves off for them to compete on, like, try to do in the traditional studio what Netflix and Amazon have done at the home. Because obviously you're not watching HBO originals on Netflix. You're not watching Netflix originals on Amazon. So the block booking, in fact, has still already existed in a way. Yeah. So that's honestly the part where I went, maybe this does save the theater experience, because it does take the gloves off a little bit. And streamers have already been benefiting from owning everything. Those were why I thought that it was incredibly interesting to bring up, and was very glad we found it.
I think what this what COVID could bring about potentially, maybe we bring back the drive-in movie theater? Question mark?
It goes full circle.
Exactly. Hey, history repeats itself, baby.
Do you think Sonic's profit margin has gone up? Do you think that they've made more money ever since the pandemic? They're like, yeah, everyone's just chilling in their car. It's great. Nobody wants to go to McDonald's anymore.
Not at the Sonics I've been to. Not following CDC guidelines at a few of the Sonics I've been to. Because I like a good Sonic breakfast sandwich, but
risk and reward, right?
No gloves, no masks very early on.
Crazy
I'm
how
like,
many
I'm
people
out.
just disregard CDC guideline. It's not. Actually, it's not. Never mind. On further reflection, our childlike appreciation for all the freedom that we have. Of course, it doesn't surprise me that people just disregard perfectly reasonable scientific guidelines because, lol, I'm in a free country.
Welcome to America.
Yeah. It's amazing we're a political podcast because we're like, you should listen to doctors.
That is crazy.
Oh man.
Would be. You know what? You know what always made me feel weird about that point? Suppose modern medicine stayed frozen. Our concept of medicine stayed frozen in the 1700s or some shit. If we just listened to doctors, we'd still be believing in miasma. You know what I mean? We'd be like, oh, dude, you got a headache? You gotta leech yourself, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I believe in my
In
asthma.
my
but a doctor
personal
confirmed it for me.
asthma, rather than the nebulous floating.
You know what we
disease.
really need in these times is a miracle worker, a miracle Max, perhaps, such as what appears in The Princess Bride. In one of the watching today, I realized how oof Miracle Max is, but we can get into that later. So, you ready to jump into that pitch, though?
What was that? What
I
was
was
that?
trying.
What?
We've not really settled how to jump in, so that was my version of a pitch transition jingle.
I thought it worked. I thought it was cute. We'll mess with it in post.
Yeah, we'll add some beepity-bops scatting in the background. So, Princess Bride by one William Goldman, who may in fact be the greatest screenwriter of the 70s. He did Marathon Man. He wrote The Princess Bride, though it wasn't filmed until later. He did All the President's Men, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, worked with Robert Redford a lot, Hoffman in President's Men, Marathon Man. It was based off his novel, which was written again in the 70s, which was presented as by an S. Morgenstern and abridged by William Goldman. And it presented just the good parts version.
Sorry, quick question. Like, have you read the book as well?
No, it's one of the books I am assured is not better than the movie. So people who have read the book maybe will feel differently, but a couple of my friends have gotten the book and tried to read it and were just like, it's not.
Well, is it because of is the concept of an abridged novel just doesn't play well, or is it more just the novel itself isn't?
It just cuts the
Up
fat,
to snuff.
or
Right. Well, that gets into it. So basically how it's presented, like the subtext of the story, and it's got William Goldman's notes all over it. So that's part of it, is it's presented as this metafiction of there's the story of The Princess Bride, but then there's Goldman's commentary on the story. So he discovered that S. Morgenstern, and it was this story that his father told him. So when he went to go read it to his son, he discovered that it was, in fact, a very boring story that his father just cut the good parts out of to read to him whenever they were reading it. So it was basically if you took Game of Thrones and left in only the battle scenes.
yo,
Damn. Steaming take.
unacceptable, inconceivable.
Which is like the
Disrespectful.
opposite. Yeah, which is like the opposite of the show, really.
Yeah, you're losing people. You're losing people.
Yeah. So anyway, it's fine. Game of Thrones is over, and people hated the ending, so it's okay to dunk on Game of Thrones now.
The series, not the books.
also-
dude. You can't.
Most people haven't read the books, so it's still fine to dunk on them.
You're wrong. But that's fine.
It was also, it's worth noting, just for the production, just one last bit of history. It was produced by Norman Lear, who probably he created my parents' favorite shows, your guys' grandparents' favorite shows. The Jeffersons, Sanford and Son, All in the Family, has created a legend, produced it. And he had worked with Reiner, obviously, on All in the Family. So that may have been the connection there. Sorry, Grant, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. That reference definitely means a lot to all of our viewers pre 1975. So thank you.
Means a lot to all of the 88s who had Nick at Night.
Andrew, because this was with Pokemon Journeys, my first pitch. Obviously, I have a strong relationship with Pokemon, but as did we all, really. And the season was a new concept for us all. This is one where you've had a strong personal relationship with. Talk to us why you wanted to make this your first pitch.
Well, I had just watched it, so it was fresh in my memory. I had to do very little homework for it. It's an hour and a half long. I watch it, and I love it every time I watch it. I think like I said, I think it's a perfect movie, pretty much. But in terms of where I'm at with it, I just think I think my first time watching it, I was recommended to it. Like, my first girlfriend, I think, called me up. This and Dirty Dancing were the two movies she called me up to catch the end of, just because she saw them on TV, and was like, you need to see these. And I was like, okay. So that's, like, my deep-rooted history. But I think, like I've said in the pitch, I think it's great. I've watched it with friends. I watched it with my fiance. I think it's a perfect movie for nearly any setting. Like, it's fine to watch on your own. It's a great pass the time movie. It just gets in and does its thing. So that's, like I said, I think it's perfect. What would qualify a perfect movie for you all? Victor, I'm expecting high walls to scale to perfection.
You know what's really crazy? I mean, like, obviously I'll agree with a good amount of people whenever they say, like, if you look at like a top 10 list of what's considered great movies, Godfather, the original, like the first one always comes up, Shawshank Redemption, Schindler's List, yada yada, and like of course those are great movies. Like that's nobody's, but for a perfect movie, I don't really have like a good concept of one. You know what I mean? Because for me, a perfect movie would be like I could watch it at any time and be happy that I did.
What's a perfect movie for you?
Like, do you want a real world analog,
like
or are you asking me what I think the perfect movie would have? Or
no, I mean obviously every movie has a flaw. Like there's no such thing as a 10 out of 10 like in actuality, and even if there was, changing times and tastes would remove it from that stature. But for you then, what is the movie you could go back to anytime? What's one of your like you can have a personal 10 out of 10 unless the wall truly is insurmountable. I mean, even the White Walkers got
did just
through.
mention it, and it has been on my head a lot. I think Schindler's List is probably the closest one I have to the perfect movie, because
that feels like a very heavy movie to be able to watch anytime.
I don't know.
But that's kind of the thing, isn't it? It's like it's able to provoke. For me, like it's able to it moves me. It's one of like the very few movies that I'll watch and I'm genuinely moved. And on top of that, you know, people overlook it because obviously, you know, it's a movie about the Holocaust. Everyone's immediate reflection is like, oh man, that's a really heavy movie. There's no joy in it whatsoever. And I'm like, that's not necessarily true. There are parts where Liam Neeson is really funny and charming. And I think that movie, I mean, again, it's like the one most recently in my head. So for right now, it's my perfect movie. Ask me next week, it'll be something else probably. But I think that people overlook the fact that even in really dark, dramatic situations, there's still humor always. There are some movies that literally completely ignore that fact.
Like if you look at the top 10 lists of everything, if it's a drama, good dramas are also funny. Casablanca is in fact an hilarious movie.
Love that. I love that particular line. You despise me, don't you? Bogus is like, hell, I would if I gave you any thought. That shit is so sick. That burn transcends decades. That's how good it is.
Right. Yeah. Like Casablanca is one of the few movies that's like, it's the best of all time, and I'm like, yep, okay, I'm in. That's true. Yeah. That turned out to be true. Yeah. So like good dramas are also almost always funny. You know, The Godfather has great moments of levity where he's like, hey Michael, come over here, you're going to have to learn how to cook for 40 guys one day.
Wine. And then on the phone call, oh, I love you so much, you're breaking my heart. Yeah,
like I think is absolutely a part of good drama ages well through having comedy and levity in it, because dramatic moments tend to always be dramatic. Comedy moments tend to can age pretty poorly. Grant, did you see any like of those moments in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, so first off, I kind of want to talk about my perfect movie. Whatever, we'll move on. But in regard to my viewing experience, so the first run through, I watched this movie 2 times. Well, I guess to rephrase, I watched this movie twice for this pitch. The first time I had pen in hand, ready to go, analysis, let's crank out what strengths, weaknesses, all that kind of mumbo jumbo. And I was finding myself just knocking off points for some dumb joke that I didn't think landed, or for, you know, the set pieces being obtusely cheap. Right. And then I realized, like, that's not the point of this kind of movie. This kind of movie in itself was like, I mean, it's like a fairy tale. It's not supposed to be taken overtly seriously. It's supposed to be one of those popcorn movies that you sit down with the whole family and enjoy. To answer your question, I think that comedy in itself is much harder to have staying power than a drama film,
Sure.
right? We've had discussions about this before, and comedy in itself, comedy can age as much as like a few years, right? Something that was funny in 2015 is no longer funny today. To this film's credit in particular, I think the charm, for someone that did not get to experience it when it first came out, I think the charm of the film, the heart that it had, outweighs the points where I'm like, oh, I didn't get that, or I did that part didn't make me laugh out loud. So my second viewing experience, which I watched a few days later, I mean, this film is cute as hell, and I can totally understand why you think The Princess Bride is as great as it is.
I feel the same way. I also had never seen the movie, but a lot of the times when they were setting up the joke of the scene, I kind of already knew what the punchline was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that might be more so due to the fact that, like, you know how when people like reference classic works all the time to the point that whatever it was that they created becomes an archetype? I know that was kind of vague. I don't know if that was necessarily the case for The Princess Bride. It very well could have. I still enjoyed the movie. Still thought it was, again, like Grant said, is exactly encapsulates how I feel about it. It was charming. Like, regardless of whether I already knew what the joke was going to be, it still felt good to hear it.
Right. And I mean, I would argue, like, anybody who rewatches, like, whenever you have that thing you rewatch or you watch with other people, part of the thing is seeing how they react to the jokes, you know? And being the annoying person who's saying, anybody want a peanut? At the same time. Also, I should have prepped you and anybody else who had never seen The Princess Bride probably wanted to watch it with captions, because Andre truly is hard to understand in some moments.
Andre the Giant is, at first I was like, what is this man doing in this film? This guy cannot act worth a damn. And then as we progressed and as his corny lines started getting cornier and cornier, I was like, this is the best character. And
right. Fezzik just slowly wins you over. He's the giant with a heart of gold. And
right.
Andre did exactly what he
It's like a microcosm of the film itself. At first you're just like, I don't know, this is a little cheesy, and then the further you go on, you buy in.
And I would point out, as part of the meta narrative, again, if you didn't feel that strongly going in, oh hey, welcome, you're in the same place as the kid getting read to, and then you buy in as the thing goes on, reflecting the frame story. So how did you guys feel about the frame story? Because I traditionally haven't had opinions until watching it this last time. Like, did it distract for you? Did it work for you? How'd you feel about the grandfather and Fred Savage?
I think that the use of narrative, or just any sort of narration, can be tropey and can be cheap as a way to dump exposition. But, I thought it was cute. I thought that the meta-narrative worked in the sense that this film is so obviously a play on, plays the fairy tale in itself, that it worked. And really, the relationship between the son and grandpa, I mean, like, that almost became, in a sense, what the film was about, was their relationship over the course of an hour and a half improved.
I think that the relationship between the grandfather and Fred Savage, right? I think it works. There's a lot of like anachronisms throughout The Princess Bride. Like, I remember particularly when Vizzini was talking about like his familiarity with Australia. It was just like, for me, that would be distracting if it wasn't for the fact that I knew that this grandpa was reading the story to his kid. You know what I mean? Given the setting, the dialogue is very modern, which is also kind of like a complaint that people had, for example, about like Knight's Tale, which I kind of agree with. Like, it was distracting in that vein, but like I said, the relationship enables that in a way that I can appreciate it. Actually, I think it enhanced the movie.
Right. The thing I really appreciated watching this time through is, I don't know why Buttercup is important. Why is she suddenly a princess? And what is happening? Why is she in this position? I understand that the prince wants to kill her to start a war. That's pretty clear. Although I would point out, it doesn't explicitly come out and say that till the end. So it's trusting the viewer to be like, but you can realize it pretty early on that that's exactly what's happening.
Right.
But it allows the viewer to connect the dots for themselves, which I really appreciate. But also the thing I appreciated this time, at first I was very bothered by, I don't know why the Princess Buttercup's in the position she's in, and then I realized, the grandfather's telling the story. The grandfather's telling it like it's been told to him. That cut out the boring bits. So we didn't need the history of Buttercup rising in politics or to whatever position. So because, and again, exposition is boring, so they just cut the exposition, which I very much appreciated about this, and that was part of somebody else is telling the story and they're trying to tell it to keep a 7-year-old sick kid interested. So they're not going to get into why Buttercup is suddenly important to politics.
Yeah, I think also one last point for the narrative, just like the ending of this movie, the grandpa saying to his grandson that final "as you wish." Ah, man, like I haven't felt like a catharsis like that from a single line in quite a while. Like that was awesome.
Yeah, Peter Falk, the actor who played the grandfather, was a national treasure. I guess getting into the last line, I'm going to do a blind... This will get us into the last couple of topics I have for us. You guys want to take a couple of seconds to look at the Rob and Carl Reiner clip in the show notes, and then skip it up over to 315, and we can always provide this video in our actual episode show notes. But just take a quick look at that.
All right.
So you're going to see Rob and his father, Carl.
I'm fine. That didn't make me...
So the important context for that, in case you don't know,
really wholesome,
is that Rob Reiner, the director, is in the Fred Savage position, and his father, Carl Reiner, is in the grandfather position. And then Carl Reiner died a few days later.
Holy.
So that was, I think, that was the last recording of, Carl Reiner, was for this Quibby version of the, Princess Bride script read. What do you guys think? There have been rumors and talk because everything gets remade. Do you think the Princess Bride is up for a remake?
No. Hard no.
I really don't see this... Well, Victor, you want to say no? I think I'm going to say yes.
He gave equivocal no's.
Yeah, unequivocal, unambiguous, hard, insurmountable, unchangeable no. It's a fundamental law of the universe for me. No.
Well, here's why you're wrong. Not actually. But yeah, I think that this film, whether it doesn't need a remake by any means. I don't think this film would necessarily be improved upon by adding 2020 era video editing and cinematography and stuff like that, because that's not what the film's about. But I do think that this relationship between father and grandson, the story, can be applied, this film was in 1988, right? The themes of the relationship between the son and the grandfather and the story for the sake of story can be told today. I think that there is a purpose.
Or you could just watch it today.
Right, but in regard to who this film is for, right? You want to show this film to your kids. And I think it's a hard sell to, as we progress further in time, to get kids to watch these sorts of movies, right? And so I think by retelling this, as long as there was it done in good faith, right? You remake this film because of the love for the film, and only that, which is obviously a major stipulation, that a remake of The Princess Bride could bring attention to a younger audience that honestly should see it.
Well, I will tell you why the internet hates you.
The internet already hates me.
Somebody made the same argument and was like, we're very seriously looking at remaking The Princess Bride. And it sparked a flood of outrage. The best of which was probably Carrie Ells, the one who played Wesley. Responded with, there are so few beautiful, perfect movies in the world, it would be a shame to damage this one.
Damn.
And it was pretty much universally reviled to the point that they stopped talking about it. And so, whoever is putting out The Lion King, whoever's making all these remakes, definitely
off the top of my head, I can think of 2 good remakes. Just 2. Out of all the movie remakes that there have ever been, it goes The Thing and and Ocean's 11. Yep. I can't think of I literally can't think of any other good remake. Okay, well maybe Night of the Living Dead. Maybe that one was okay. The 90s version. It was okay. It was passable.
Yeah. But I mean, by your logic, Grant, Star Wars will get remade. The original trilogy is going to get redone. I think that there are a certain subset of movies that will exist as they are. The Casablancas, the Godfathers, Star Wars, and The Princess Bride. Like there is a certain tier of movie that is untouchable. Incidentally, you could absolutely remake The Untouchables today. That could call for a remake. It was perfectly fine as it was, but I could see redoing it maybe. So the internet strongly disagreed with you already.
Yeah,
I'm just bribing my way into the good graces by baiting you with that question.
Fine. The viewer can pick their favorite.
You brought up the Quibby. What more did you have to say about the Quibby piece that you were going to bring up?
Oh, yeah. I think, first off, the Quibby remake was done by, for those who have no idea, did we introduce it at all? I think we kind of just mentioned it. So the Quibby remake, for those unaware, was done on the platform Quibby. It is essentially just, oh my god, it's a shot-for-shot remake of the film done by over 100 different actors, just doing the film in their backyard. Like shot for shot, different scenes. You'll have Inigo Montoya being played by who all played Inigo Montoya? There was like 7 or 8 different actors.
I don't remember. I remember Carrie played the Six-Fingered Man, which was fun since he was now playing the villain after having been the hero.
I was just
in
about
the original.
to ask, did anybody actually reprise the role from the original? Because seeing Mandy Patinkin as Inigo Montoya would currently would blow my mind, because my first exposure to him as an actor was in Homeland. So I didn't even, and again, I'd never seen The Princess Bride, so just seeing him and then realizing, oh my god, that's the same dude, that was just...
Well, Fred Savage actually was in the movie. He played himself in one of the scenes. I don't know if it was
played Fred Savage
near the end or not. Yeah, Fred Savage played Fred Savage.
Sitting in bed, getting read to. I think it was Rob Reiner reading to Fred Savage. I think that was the scene. So then they also flipped that that was the flip at the end for Reiner and Reiner.
Yeah. But the film, the Quibby adaptation had, like we mentioned, just a variety of different actors. I mean, you had from Chris Pine to J.K. Simmons to Finn Wolfhard. You had Seth Rogen in there. I mean, it was literally anyone was a part of this, just filming their scenes in their backyards. And it really, the film was created by was directed by Jason Reitman,
who's a master.
Right. And it was put together for charity, for a food kitchen. I don't have the name of the food kitchen off the top of my head, but obviously got the go-ahead from Reiner himself. And it really was charming. What it proved to me, because it was just it was literally just a bunch of guys filming their scenes with their cheap costumes, right, in the backyard. It showed how much staying power this movie has, and how much it has meant to so many people. So very long answer to your short question. All right, so that was the conclusion of our Princess Bride pitch. Hopefully we did an all right job of it, the very least entertaining you. Now we've got something a little different for our next pitch. Oh, Andrew, you have something?
Can I propose an alternate segue?
Yeah, go
Victor,
for it.
you said you had no scruples. Why don't you tell us about our next pitch?
Well, let me tell you about... I had no idea what I was going to do. I was just thinking about how in this world, is it the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law? Is it like the hand of God hovering above? I don't really know, but Berserk is good, so we're going to totally, that's my pitch. My pitch is the manga series by Kentaro Miura, Berserk, started in 1989 and is still ongoing, and I assigned some homework. There's an anime series from 97 that I'm very particular about. I really enjoy that. I think that's the best anime adaptation. And then of course I also suggested some of the volumes. I believe it was 1 through 14, because it covers roughly the same territory as the anime. I highly recommend it. It's dark, so it's not for everyone. It's like the dark chocolate of manga. It's like if you took it's not for everyone, dude. This is 99% cacao. You don't want that. Man. You gotta dilute it. But yeah, I highly recommend the series, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts about it.
Right. Because we are doing this particular episode within the span of 1 week, we have decided that Andrew will be taking the 97 anime adaptation, and that I myself will be reading volumes 1 through 14 of the manga. For those listening, feel free to take either or both, depending on however you feel about your time constraints. But that will be our approach as we see you all on the next episode. All right, so next episode, as we mentioned, we will be pitching you on Berserk. Thank you all for listening to this episode of the Pitch Pod. Make sure to follow this podcast. Spread the word, leave us a good comment, follow us on social media that we still do not have, that eventually, I promise, I will get done one day. Make sure to spam us with all your thoughts, questions, criticisms, hate mail, love mail, and etc. Leave a review. Tell a friend. Tell multiple friends. Tell every single one of your friends, your mom, your dad, grandma. I'm sure grandma wants to hear about Berserk.
Oh my
She
God.
might be metal like that, dude. I don't know.
She isn't.
Yeah, and most importantly, make sure to interact with us by wasting your next couple weeks obsessing over Berserk with us. Cue Space Rock.